everyone, and welcome to another episode of my Woman Who Inspires series. My name is Sreshtha Tewari. I am the director of the Self-Worth Leadership and Empowerment Consultancy. I am also a wholeness guide and a motivational speaker. And at the end of it all, I really just want all women to live mentally free. In this series, we speak about our so-called perceived negative emotions, and we look at those emotions as little messengers from the universe trying to guide us on to a better place in our lives, a happier place, and even our purpose. On this series, I'm lucky to have a diverse group of women, and today I would like to introduce to you Ruth de Gannes. Ruth is an entrepreneur and coach. She has her own business called One Life Incorporated, and she helps people achieve life balance through personal and professional development. Welcome to the series, Ruth. How are you today?
Hi, very well, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you so much again for accepting my invitation. So Ruth and I are not where I did not know her before, but sometimes you meet someone and you're seeing all their photos and you're thinking, wow, this person is an awesome person to know just from the energy in her photos. So I'm really excited to have her here. And Ruth, I'm going to ask you to share your emotional healing journey.
Sure, absolutely. No, it would be my pleasure. So pretty much my story started, I got pregnant at 18 years old. Definitely one of the most challenging times of my life, but also the event that caused my greatest life shift. So bearing in mind, this was over 2 decades ago when things like teenage pregnancy were not very common and they weren't always accepted at the same time either. So for me personally, I grew up in a culture, a family where traditional values were very honored. So to have something like this happen was it was a disgrace, it was a dishonor, it was something that reflected very badly on us as a family unit. So things like having to tell my grandparents, having to tell my parents was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And there was also the fact that at such a young age, you're now responsible for bringing up a child. And, they don't teach you about that in school. So I firmly believe that until we are parents ourselves, we don't fully understand what that means. And the commitment and the time and the effort and the energy it takes to raise a child, or, for some people, they have 2 and 3 and 4 and more. So things like the sleepless nights, the patients, the illnesses, the schooling, it's a 24-hour job and a very rewarding one, but definitely a full-time, overtime one for sure. So here we were, my boyfriend and I, very fresh out of high school, no jobs, no degrees, no tools under our belt, and we panicked. We had no idea how is this all going to work out. It was very uncertain, very overwhelming, very frightening, because to a large extent, we were still very much kids. What was really lovely about the entire experience, though, was that amidst all of the emotions, the negative emotions, the shock, the uncertainty, I really learned the power of a family unit, and I really learned the power of a community, and how things like, some people might call it God or grace or the universe, and when you take something like that and you put it together with family and community, and you put it together with hard work, it really creates something so beautiful. So what we did, my husband and I, we threw ourselves, he's now my husband. When she was 6 years old, we got married. We wanted to make sure that, we were right for each other. Because I think back in the day, what would happen a lot of times is people would get married just because they wanted to hide the fact that they got pregnant before. And then sometimes maybe they weren't compatible, or, different things happen. So we wanted to make sure when she was 6 years old, we got married. She says it was the best day of her life. So that was so interesting to have her in all of our wedding pictures. It was very special. So what we did, having no tools and having no idea how it was going to work, we threw ourselves into personal development. And this was like this beautiful treasure that I found that I never knew existed. And we did courses, we read books, We sought out mentors on anything from parenting to confidence to communication. And that has just taken our life to a whole different level, you know. And there's this beautiful saying, I think it's Jim Rohn said it. He said, you should work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And that was so beautiful because it really brings to light how much and how important it is that we work with ourselves on our own self-discovery journey. And that changes and it looks different at different stages of our life. So that was very special, and I was very grateful to have learned that lesson so early. I can't say that it was an easy journey, because definitely it wasn't. Emotionally having to go through all of those changes and come to terms with a lot of things, and having to make that journey from such a young age was definitely had its challenges. But what I can say is that when you put the work in and you feel you have people there to guide you along the way, you can end up in a better place far faster than you think you ever would. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, one of those things, you know, they say, turn your struggles into your strengths, turn your mess into your message, turn your wounds into your wisdom. I think I wrote that in a post recently, actually, but it really resounds with me because through this struggle is where we start to find ourselves, where we start to find our strength. So that is a really encouraging thing for me to remember whenever we encounter struggle in life, which we all will at some point or another, you know?
Yeah, that is such a beautiful story. I mean, and I really want to honor you for talking about the fact that you wanted to wait until you were right for each other to get married, because that is something, even if you're not pregnant, even if you don't have some underlying reason pushing you, people get married without understanding each other's wholeness, makes them whole, and they get married and they end up in a situation that, well, I guess it's all on their journey and all for their learning. But it's such a beautiful story about something that was not expected and turned out to be your journey to self-discovery and personal development. And I want to ask you, because so many people deal with this, how did you deal with or process feeling the disgrace and dishonor from your family members? How did you deal with that?
That's actually a really good question. I think at the beginning, I probably did not deal with it very well. I probably went into a spiral of, I know that there are a lot of people out there, myself included, at one point in my life, I went through a phase of feeling like I was the black sheep of the family. And when you feel that way, sometimes you start to really play that part. And at the time, I didn't love myself enough to want to do better for myself, to give myself the time. I didn't even know how. How do I love myself? How do I get myself to feel better? With this experience, what it has done, it took me out of myself. I now needed to be better for somebody else. And, you know, there's also that saying, they say people would often do more for other people than they do for themselves. And that's exactly what happened to me in this situation. In dealing with all of those negative emotions, it was something that I had to face, that I had to reflect on, and that I had to grow from. Even if it wasn't for myself right away at that time, it was for our child. It was for like a greater reason. So definitely I think the sitting back, the reflecting, coming to terms with the reality of what's happening. Sometimes when you hit rock bottom, you kind of realize, well, the only way left to go is up. So you start to think about, okay, well, how then? How can we make this work? And we start to map out those steps, and just one step at a time. In your most challenging times of life, I would say one step at a time. That's all we can do.
Yeah, yeah, it's a powerful story because so many people feel these these emotions, especially around wanting acceptance from the persons around them, not realizing that we really have to accept ourselves first, which is what you just described. And I want to ask you, are you grateful for this experience? And if yes, why?
Absolutely. I am absolutely grateful. Even though it was definitely one of the most challenging times of my life, it was also as a result of what came out of those challenges. Um, I'm grateful for all of the lessons that it has brought, all of the growth and the meaning that it has brought to our life. You know, when you have to give to other people and you spend time loving others and doing for others, it creates the sense of fulfillment and joy that I think is you can't explain it, you know. So learning how to extend myself beyond myself to somebody else as a mother has definitely been a really rewarding experience for me. Definitely a big learning experience, but one that I'm so grateful for. Absolutely.
Yes, as a mother of a 5-year-old, I could completely relate.
Oh, yes.
Because yes, I love her immensely, but it is challenging. But I really want to thank you for sharing your story because you had a life experience that wasn't ideal. It's not something that society would look at and be like, oh, there's Ruth being her most wonderful self. But within that experience, you, in a way, can or have redefined what it means to just be happy. It doesn't mean that you need to follow an ideal societal path. It could mean that you have to discover on your own yourself. And I found it most beautiful that you said that your daughter said that your wedding day was the happiest day of her life, because it's a different way to think about sharing that moment with this child, your child, to share your wedding day. It's a different way of looking at things, and it takes us into a different perspective when we all think the correct thing to do is to get married, then have a baby, and then go on in life. But however your life unfolds can be beautiful, whichever way it is. Once you work through what is coming to you, you learn through your challenges, as Ruth did, and you go on your journey of self-discovery and acceptance. And I want to ask you one last question. What would you tell your younger self?
That is also a very good question. I would say that it's kind of like a three ingredient recipe. It's like three things that I find really work well together. And one is the same faith that I was talking about. You know, we have to have faith that things will or can be better. We also have to believe in ourselves, and we also need to believe that there is a better way, there is a way through this. And then the third part is we have to put the work in. I think that nothing great comes without hard work. But if you can combine those three things together, then I do believe that it's possible to take any situation and turn it around.
Yes, that's so wonderful. A wonderful message for the audience and persons listening: to have faith, believe in yourself, and also know that you have to put the work in order to get to the place that you want to be. Life is all about discovering your power and your beauty. So, Ruth, thank you so much for coming on this series. I appreciate your beautiful story. Do you have any closing remarks?
I just had one thought actually with something that you were saying that really struck a chord with me, and it was really so beautiful, about people following their own unique journey. And I think that that is so important, that everybody recognizes that we all have our own unique journey. We all have our own unique gifts. And so wherever you are, whatever you were born into, wherever your life has taken you, it's possible to take the steps one at a time to make it better, one step at a time.
Yes, most definitely. So, Ruth, thank you again so much for coming on the series. And to my audience, thank you for watching. I know that you were inspired by her story. I had tears in my eyes by the whole description of the wedding day. And if you're a mother, you would know how much it would mean to you to know that your daughter is happy on your own life journey. So if you're interested in contacting Ruth, she is a coach. I will have her information in the description box below. And I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.